Got the video rolling sound. Sound has speed. Now we're going live in 3, 2, boom! Don't forget, you can get the shirt in my store, Ultimate Expression. I got the Jiu-Jitsu Legend shirt on today because Jiu-Jitsu is legend. And I may want to clarify for the people listening to the audio podcast that I'm also videotaping today's podcast, so I'm speaking to the camera, so you're not quite confused with what's going on. But today I'll be talking about some subjects involving kind of what road rage kind of leads to road rage, but also talking about the fast lane. And I'm not necessarily talking about the songs, dealing with the fast lane, but we all know what the fast lane is when you're out on the highway and you want to go fast, so you hit that left lane or the far left lane, and you're hoping that lane is clear so you can do whatever speed that you like. Now, there's been issues about this lane and different laws that's come up about trying to keep that lane clear for people who they want to get to where they're going. They have a quicker destination, and the slower people are halting up their progress. And what's interesting is here lately, because I live in Arkansas, so here lately the law has, well, actually it was an act that came up. I can forget the number of the act, but it states you must drive in the right-hand lane and keep the left lane clear unless you're absolutely passing. And at first I thought that law was just for like the interstate travel, larger highways, but it actually is talking about all highways, like just city highways. And basically, it's kind of an impossible situation if you're traveling anywhere in the city and you have a five-lane highway and you have to turn left, or maybe you're traveling and you're driving through a city and you don't know whether something's going to be on the left or right, and you have to jump across a lane. So I don't think they really took a lot into account when they started this act or this new law. So it brings up some barriers as usual. But we all know that some states already have the law. If you're on the interstate, you're supposed to stay out of the left-hand lane unless you're passing somebody. And the left lane is designated for passing and not just for driving, which is what that law actually meant for people to do. But people don't use it like that. People actually, when they're on the interstate, if the speed limit's 75, usually people doing 80 or 90, they just stay in the left lane. They don't ever get over. It can be kind of dangerous whipping back and forth if you're doing speeds excess of 90 and you're jumping in and out of traffic. But also, you have to be aware of your surroundings when you drive. And that's where we get into people with, with the road rage and different things like that. Because we know that people just aren't going to do what the law says to do. People don't stop at traffic lights. People speed up when they go through traffic lights. When they see the yellow, they don't slow down, they don't stop. They don't stop at stop signs. They barely do the speed limit. And people are lost in different types of cities, and yet they still speed. They're speeding, but they're lost. And so how are you supposed to find your way around if you're speeding and you can't read the signs around you, and they're trying to maybe read directions or take directions from their phone or whatever, so people just don't, their IQ drops by 75% when they hit the road. When they get behind the wheel of a car, their IQ drops by 75% because people start getting lost and can't figure out what to do. And needless to say, some are sitting still at traffic lights and their stop signs and still can't find their way around. And it's different for different people. Some people, they're good drivers, and some people, excel at driving and can do a really good job by out driving everybody else and, checking their phones or doing whatever in the process. But I've seen a lot of comments and people talk about this left lane or fast lane, slow lane situation. They expect, if they're doing 5 over the speed limit, 10 over the speed limit, when they get up on the bumper of a car, you're supposed to be just pulling over. And if you talk to some of the traffic enforcement people, law enforcement, they'll tell you that it's not your job to regulate traffic. When you see somebody, speeding and they're pulling up behind you. Maybe you're already going 5 over, but they're going in excess of 20 over. If they're pulling up behind you, they tell you to get over. It's not your job to slow traffic down. They're the ones taking the risk. But once we get involved in a situation to where we don't want to get over, then we have that conflict where that road rage comes out and where that person actually wants to pass you on the right. And one thing about it is people know they're speeding, and people know they're obstructing the lane. So you have two people that's actually doing the wrong thing. And it's kind of like in sports, are they offsetting penalties? Do the penalties offset? Both people are doing, bad things and they both get penalized. That's not usually how it works out. Usually the people wind up getting into some kind of scuffle or fights. They pull over on the side of the road. They're flipping the bird back and forth. A lot of different things start to initiate just through that specific conflict. And another thing is the people that are doing over the speed limit in the fast lane, they're so, I'm not going to use the word cocky, but they're so intent on speeding and everybody, partying like the Red Sea just because they're doing over the speed limit. They think that, they're just high and mighty when they do it and everybody should bow to them, when they're actually, are at fault for speeding. But why are you on the road and you expect everybody else to drive correctly and abide by the law except for you? Because you already know you're speeding, but you don't look at it as really bad, but yet you want the other people to abide by this law while you're breaking another law, and they expect everybody around them to drive perfect when they're actually not, obeying a law themselves. I understand you're taking the risk, but everybody, when you get behind the wheel of a car, you're taking a risk. So a lot of this, it comes down to trust of other drivers. And you think about this too, when you're out on the road, and I'll give an example. There's a construction site I saw the other day, and they've closed part of the road, and they've limited traffic to only one way. And they've told people at either end to stay out and put up signs that says do not enter. And the road is very narrow, but yet people know that it's one way, and they'll wait by the road closed sign or the do not enter sign, and they'll sit there and they'll wait for traffic, for the one-way traffic to exit so they can jump inside and go the wrong way. And they just expect everything to be okay. And on the other end, you have people pulling out in front of traffic without yielding or stopping at the stop signs. They're just jumping out in front of cars. And it's just, that's why I say people's IQ drops by 75%, because everybody on the road thinks that it's okay that I just do this because it's for 2 seconds, or it's okay if I do this because it's not really going to affect anybody. And kind of bit like being behind the wheel of a car can represent you in your personal life and how you treat other matters. Do you treat other matters like this? Does it go back to your integrity? Does it go back to your courtesy? I know some people that I've rode in the car with them before, and the minute they're behind the wheel, pedestrians should yield to them. And if you're walking, you should be getting out of the way. But yet, once they get out of the car and they start walking, traffic should bow to them and stop for them. It's the flip side. So everybody has that's kind of selfish mentality, or they're from one point of view type of mentality, where they only see it from their side, and what they have to do is, you pull up to the grocery store and you park right in the front doors, and you're only going to be in there a minute. Therefore, you should be able to rush in there, leave your car running, leave it illegally parked, and it's not going to hurt anybody else, because life's just going to be perfect, and everybody should bow to you, and you should go on about your merry business. When you may have 500 or 5,000 other people out there that's trying to do the same thing. And we know what happens when people are trying to do the same thing. It becomes a stovepipe. You know, whatever system is gets clogged up, and it can no longer flow. And that goes back to like even construction zones out on the interstate. They'll close if there's a couple of lanes there. They'll close one, and there's only one lane of traffic, but yet you'll have 2 lanes of traffic backed up because one lane is trying to jump ahead of 500 other cars to get in front of everybody, and they expect that lane that's actually open to stop for them and let them in. And you know, it's things like this that yeah, it can make your life harder. It can make your traffic experience a little bit more dangerous. But it's something that, you know, to think about is your courtesy, your integrity, and integrity. I can't talk. When you're out on the road, and how you handle yourself, and how you react to other drivers. You know, give other drivers the space. You know, if you're making that left-hand turn and there's an adjacent lane that's also making a left-hand turn, make sure you give them some space to the right of you, because they're probably going to be cutting you off when they make that left-hand turn. Same thing with the right-hand turn lanes. You have to give that other car some space. You already know they're going to be messing up, or they're not going to be able to see you, or maybe they're from a different state, even a different country, and they're just not used to driving in traffic in certain ways. So it's not always just intentional, but you have to give people space. You have to be alert around you. You know, driving is a privilege, and it can be a job, but it can also be a fun experience if you stay out of situations of the road rage and thinking that everything that you do is the only thing that matters. So I'm gonna leave you at that. If you're totally enraged at the end of this podcast, then quote, you may be part of the problem. But seriously, conduct yourself accordingly. We want to make it from A to B to C in a safe way, and everybody else around you. So it's something to think about. You know, 2 wrongs aren't going to make a right, and everybody is just not going to obey your one law when they violate the rest of them. So I'm going to get out of here. It's been great talking to you. It's been great having you guys. Make sure you subscribe, like, share the podcast. I do a podcast every Monday. I do a mini talks every Monday, and I have over 70 episodes. You can download them from iTunes, iHeartRadio, the YouTube. You guys out there watching, share it with a friend, and also get you a Jiu-Jitsu Legend shirt. And I'll talk to you guys in the next episode.